So, Evan, how does it feel to be in the red and white? Go yourself. Evan, how we doing today, man?
Doing well. How are you?
Great, great. Well, folks, today we have a very special guest on today. He is a NHL legend, and the man pretty much needs no too little introduction himself. He is a Hall of Famer, and his legendary stats speak for themselves. Before joining the NHL, he first played 2 years of college hockey, where he aided the Wisconsin Badgers in winning an NCAA Division I championship. After those 2 years, he took his skills to the NHL, playing 26 seasons in the league for four different organizations. In those 26 years, he won three Stanley Cups, three James Norris trophies as the NHL's top defenseman. He is an NHL Hall of Famer and a hockey legend. He is the one, the only, Chris Chelios.
Well, thank you for that introduction.
No
Sounded
problem.
Great.
No problem at all. Well, Chris, we saw I was watching TNT last night. I was watching the Wings. Right off the bat, you were mentioning things about Sergei Fedorov and his jersey not being retired. I was just wondering if you have any continued thoughts on that. I think, it's going to happen soon like you did last night. And do you think there's also other guys that could be in discussion? Pavel Datsyuk, Henrik Zetterberg. What are your thoughts on the lines of those guys being added to the rafters in Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'll talk Sergey. I mean, the whole 10 years, almost 10 years, you end up getting traded. But, for me, I don't think, all the years I've played, maybe, some players as good as Sergey, but no one better. When he was on his game, he can control a game. I mentioned it last night. Scotty actually put him at defense at some point. That's how talented he was. But effortless, from the hair to the Nikes, the white Nike skates, what he brought to the table, and obviously the Russians that, Scotty had brought in to support him, they changed hockey. And Sergey was a big part of that. And when he accomplished his individual awards, Stanley Cups, he's well deserving anyway of that, the jersey retirement. But, there's a lot of guys that, could also be put in that mix too. There's Igor Larionov. I still think, if you're talking at positions like Chris Draper, 4 cups, won some individual trophies, one of the best at his craft, somewhat like a Guy Carbonneau. But, Sergey for sure, I think I'd be considering him the first one of these guys you mentioned, Datsyuk, possibly Zetterberg. Both those guys got kind of later starts in their careers. Sergey came right at the beginning, so that might be a little tougher. But all great players. But again, I was really close with Sergey, so I kind of cheer for him for hopefully someday that'll happen.
Definitely. And hopefully it does. Hopefully it's soon. It's been a while since we talked last. I think it was during the COVID. You were on a beach in Malibu just getting off surfing, done with surfing. What is going on in the life of Chris Chelios? Anything exciting besides the TNT stuff?
Well, I've got 4 paying jobs. So I think I started a tequila company 3-4 years ago. That's mostly just for fun. Had a lot of good trips and really interesting. First time I've really ventured in business once I got out of hockey. I've got the ambassador job with the Chicago Blackhawks, which I just basically go to the games and sit in a suite and visit sponsors and season ticket holders. So I enjoy that. It keeps me, relevant with the Blackhawks. It's primarily the reason why I moved back here, along with being with my family. And then the last thing would be the MGM Grand Bet, from where Gretzky, Jamie Foxx. I'm low man on the totem pole, but it's still a lot of fun trips. They'll be here at the Winter Classic with, that game with Chicago versus St. Louis at Wrigley Field. Looking forward to that. But I stay busy. And then last but not least, I would say, becoming a grandparent 3 times and 2 on the way.
Congrats.
So
Congratulations.
That's a yeah, it's more fun than I thought it'd be. No, I knew it was going to be great, but so I'm busy.
Definitely. Well, we've seen you be amazing in the league. We've seen your legendary career. How is the transition going from player to commentator, Ben? Some people have said, like, we see Tom Brady in the NFL going from that player to commentator, and we see kind of his, ins and outs. How has that been for you from going from player to commentator now with TNT?
Yeah, I mean, it actually started in Detroit. Once I retired, I somehow got started doing some of the in between period shoots, and at first real uncomfortable, but it becomes repetitive, and you get more comfortable. And then fast forward 8, 9 years later, with TNT on a national spectrum, it's been great. Working with Bissonnette and Gretzky, Lundqvist, Anson Carter, Colby Armstrong. I mentioned most of the guys in Liam, who carries us basically, the host. But it's great, and I also get to do it occasionally with the Blackhawks with my daughter
Oh,
Kaylee,
that's fun.
That is sweet.
who's doing it. Yeah, and that's really special. We've been on probably 5, 6 times together this year. We have a lot of fun with it. I enjoy doing it with her. And like I said, she started with Tampa Bay for 5 years, won a couple of cups there, so she earned it, and now she's doing a fantastic job with the Blackhawks. And she bounces around from studio to color to play by play. So it's been great. I'm still not I'm part time, so I haven't been able to get in a real groove, quite honestly. But I enjoy it.
Chris, what was the harder transition, going from NHL to commentator or NHL to UHL in the '04 season?
UHL, with a United Hockey League, you're talking about?
Yeah, during the lockout.
Oh boy, what was it? The Motor City Mechanics. That was quite an experience. It's funny. Growing up in Chicago, we used to play in that old Fraser rink when I was a kid, and then to go back there and be playing in the UHL. I guess that the nickname was the U-Haul, but I mean, it worked out for everybody. It was me, Hatcher, Sean Avery got kicked out pretty quick. He was a nuisance for the team. We needed him as a mentor, but he was getting kicked out of every game. But it was great. Hockey was done for the year, and some source of entertainment for as far as the Wings fans were concerned. We sold out every game. Unfortunately, we didn't make the playoffs. We only lost one game out of the last 21 and still didn't make the playoffs. But it was a good experience. The ownership was great. Put a few games on TV. But that's about as low as you can go, I think, as far as pros, is that U-Haul.
Yeah, to that point,
That's
Chris, I would say, so with the state of the NHL today, we've seen two now new expansion teams, with the most recent being Seattle and you that played for Atlanta. Do you see more expansion coming down the road, or like what was it like playing for then that expansion team in Atlanta?
I mean, at that point, it run its course. No fan support, owned by a group, not just one owner. So it wasn't a great situation. Now they're talking about getting another team in Atlanta in a couple of years. They're already, starting to plan on and building out in the suburbs of Atlanta. And it looks like it looks like that one, could be one of the next one or two teams that gets an expansion team. I mean, Seattle, they're tearing a page out of Vegas's book. It's all about entertainment, a little bit of a smaller arena, but they do a great job and have a great fan base. Season's not going as well as it did the previous year, and you like to get off to a good start with an expansion team. What Vegas did is incredible from day one, and still a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. But yeah, teams come and go. Winnipeg's having trouble again. There's a chance they might not have a team in a year or two. Also, you hate to see it happen, but
Oh wow.
if they don't, yeah, so they're not getting good crowds, and yeah, so Houston, I know they've got a pretty strong bid for a team also. So yeah, it's always going to be part of hockey is the expansions, and more jobs for guys. You like to see an expansion team as opposed to a team moving, but it does create more opportunity for players.
I would say so.
Chris, speaking about more. Oh, sorry, Evan. Chris, speaking about more opportunities for players, my mom, and by the way, you're her favorite player, and
Yeah, tell her thanks.
she taught USA hockey players. She was a teacher at Ann Arbor Pioneer. They always had the decision to go to college or juniors. With more NIL money, do you think that players are gonna more be influenced to go to college instead of going that junior route?
Well, I think it's Canadians. I don't think it'll make a difference for Canadians because those kids are they want that they're born and that's their sport, right? They want to just grow up and be an NHL hockey player. But as far as Americans go, you notice when you get out of high school or you go to get to junior, it gives you that 2 extra years of developing. And I've always said this, since day one. I went to college for 2 years and then had to leave for the Olympics, but it's less risk. You give yourself an opportunity if things don't work out as a hockey player to get a degree, and you got that to fall back on. That money you're talking about, I mean, that could lure a lot of guys also. But like I said, junior in Canada, they pay these kids, and they don't care about losing their college eligibility. But I think you'll see a lot of American kids uh, prefer to do that. Maybe not necessarily just for the money, but again, to give themselves that extra 4 years to develop as opposed to try and break into the league when you're 18 or 19.
Yeah, she taught people like Larkin and Jake Trouba, who was just recently the captain at Montreal, both Michigan guys who went and developed for those 4 years, and you can easily argue that they're better for it.
Yeah, and I can say from my experience, I would have, at their age, 18, 19, there's no way I was ready to play in the NHL. And when that's the case, you go down the American League, and it's not easy. That's more of a development league, so you're not surrounded by, the skill and the talent the players are in the NHL. So unless you're one of those special players and a star player, you got to work your way up, and a lot of guys do. And the American League's turned into a great development league, and it produces a lot of NHL players. But again, the safer route, like those guys did, is spend a year or two in college. Physically, you develop, and then you get all that practice time also in college.
Definitely. Now, Chris, you touched a little bit about expansion earlier. I want to pick your brain. Now, the NFL does, those overseas games. Now, does the NHL have any ideas of starting regular season play overseas? Maybe say Germany, Sweden, or Russia. Do you think they're heading that route to try to get the Europeans excited about NHL hockey?
I mean, at this point, every European kid, they want to play in the NHL. That they know it's the greatest league in the world. To start a division over there, I don't know if that's such a great idea. The time change, especially if you ever notice in the Olympics, unless U.S. and Canada get in the finals, which doesn't happen a whole lot overseas, it really doesn't ever do well. You see football; they play more and more games over there. I think if they were to start a division over there, it wouldn't be as a special event as let's say a Winter Classic, or we play some outdoor games, but start doing too many of them. I don't think the novelty will wear off. So this is the best league, and we have most of the great Europeans are here. The Russians, it's a little tricky how they have to play a couple of years there. It's somewhat like how they have to serve in the military for a lot of those countries, and that's how they can get around that by playing hockey. So, but so I'm a big fan of North American style hockey, and I've always said sometimes you watch those games over there on the big ice, it's like watching paint dry.
Yeah, I feel that. Now, I want to transition and to focus more on Red Wings hockey since, two of us and all of our, pretty much our fans out there are big fans. One of the questions I want to ask you right off the bat, what's your opinion of the state of the so-called Iser plan? We have a lot of restless fans who are kind of just getting shaky as things goes along. We almost made the playoffs last year if it wasn't for, Philadelphia selling. But, what do you think of the state of the Iser plan? Do you think, Maine, stay due course through these rough waters? Or what's your opinion of, Stevie and how he's done in Detroit so far?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Izzy, no question. His work ethic as a player, it just carried right over into management as a general manager. And when he was scouting with the Wings for a little bit, you saw what he did in Tampa, the draft picks, along with Pat Verbeek, another Red Wing. He was in management also with us. But they're right on track. I think it's been 6 years. Last year, you mentioned that last game debacle with the Flyers, but also Larkin getting injured, and I think the team almost went winless for 10, 11 games. I mean, he drives that bus, Larkin. And when he's going, that team's going. Right now, I believe they're only 2 or 4 points out of a playoff spot with a couple games in hand, or at least one. You got Patrick Kane, who's been struggling. DeBrincat, hasn't been the same, as since he's gotten, to Detroit as he was, or as effective offensively. And then Kaner, he got a goal and a beautiful assist last night. At this point, you can say what you want, the Iser plan or whatever, but those guys will admit they're struggling, and you're just waiting for them to come out of that. And once they get going, I think they're going to be a team that can make the playoffs. And then goaltending hasn't been the problem, but they need someone a goalie that's going to step up. And I think they got a kid at State, I believe.
Yes, they do.
That's coming up in 2 years, supposed to be one of the best in the country. And as we all know, you have a goaltender. Look what they got Vasilevsky a little later in the draft. He struggled the first year, but then from out of nowhere, he became the best in the world, and other goaltenders. So that would help a ton. Lyon did a great job last night, but they still gave up the 4 goals. But they got to hunker down defensively and hope that offense comes around. They got the firepower. Their power play has been carrying them up to this point.
Yeah, I would agree with everything you said there. Now, one of the things I kind of want to focus on, since you are a Detroit Chicago man, with the addition of Tyler Bertuzzi on the Blackhawks roster, and it moving do you think it's moving in the right direction, adding a piece like Tyler? We saw him in Detroit, what he could do for the likes of Dylan Larkin. Do you think adding him to a star-studded roster with Connor Bedard, do you think that's going to help Chicago starting to move in the right direction as well?
Yeah, I mean, he had a really slow start, Bertuzzi. Detroit, his issue was injuries. He could not stay healthy his whole time in Detroit. And that's why Yzerman probably part ways with him, just because of that. And he asked for a lot of money also. So, he's been to 3 teams since then. Excuse me, Toronto, Boston, and I love him. He's playing great right now. Not on Bedard's line right now. They've kind of been shuffling. But I love him as a player. I wish he was a little bigger, but he gets, pound for pound, he's as tough as they come. Goes those hard spots. He's somewhat like a Thomas Holmstrom.
Yeah.
Wins battles, gets to the front of the net. He's just got a good feel for the game. So, now he's kind of picked it up. He's turned that corner, and I think he's one of their better players over the course of the last 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how he develops, and hopefully, him and Connor can do something exciting in Chicago. It's always good when Chicago and Detroit at the premiere of the hockey level. One of the things I want to ending question here and to close it out of either team, who do you think will have the quicker resurgence out of either? We talked about Dylan Larkin. When he's on the ice, he's kind of that motor that keeps Detroit going. Do you think with Tyler Bertuzzi being in Chicago and him kind of helping Bedard on a separate line, do you think that, since Detroit is so reliant on guys like Larkin, like Kane, like DeBrincat to really keep the motor going, that Chicago may have a better, turnout because of their youth with Tyler and Connor and maybe some other guys who they add in the trade deadline or even during the draft?
I mean, only time's going to tell, but the Blackhawks sure loaded on draft picks and high draft picks. Again, Detroit, they've been snake bit in the draft.
Oh, yeah.
Bad luck, call it what you want. They haven't had the luxury the Blackhawks have had over the past 3-4 years of getting first rounder, second pick overall. So that's played a big part in that also. But I still think Detroit right now, as a team that is on the bubble for the playoffs, where Chicago, they got a lot of work ahead of them. They got these young kids. Hopefully they'll develop faster than they like. They got a decision to make at the end of the year. Coaching, Sorensen's an interim coach from Rockford, and I don't think it was fair. Luke Richardson wasn't handed a lot, but something had to change. And these young players, you got to give them time, and they got a young team. But right now, Detroit, definitely the more mature, veteran team, and a team with a couple tweaks here and there, and add the right guy here and there, they could be a legit playoff team.
Definitely. Well, Chris, we don't want to take up too much of your time. We know you're a busy man. I want to thank you for joining today, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, you guys. Take care. All the best. Have a good Christmas.
You too. You as well.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Go Red
Go
Wings.
Wings.
Yeah, go Hawks, go Wings.
Go
Yes,
Leafs.
sir.
Hey, there we go. We can
All
live
right,
with
guys.
that.
Yes.
Take care.
You too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Chris Chelios, everyone.
Wow.
That was awesome. I
That
mean,
was great.
great guy, unbelievable career, unbelievable story he's got. You know, local Chicago guy getting traded back to Chicago eventually and doing what he did there, and just he's connected all over the league. What a great story. You know, we're talking about a little bit of NHL earlier. Let's cut right into that in this next segment here.
You suck.
I mean, you can make a take there, but you know, let's start talking about the NHL.
Wasn't it funny though? He's just like, that's his loss.
Yeah, I know that
wish
was
we had
funny.
That in. That would have been so funny.
We do.
What? That's his problem when I was.
I believe we do. I'm not sure.
Can we please keep that in?
We could try.
That'd be
we could try.
great.
That would be great. Anyways,
that'd be so
Chris
com-
Chelios just roasted Evan. Everyone, he said that's his loss for being a Leafs fan, and it is his loss for being a Leafs fan because, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, I won the bet. Surprisingly, I was dumbfounded by that. Go Wings, as always. We got our wing stuff on. We were interviewing.
I'm 0 for 1. I'm
0
0 for 1.
You're 0
but
for
this
1,
season
maybe
is
0 for
still
2.
young.
It is still young, but I want to talk about that game. I want to talk about the game last night and how the Wings played. It was really, I mean, that game, Jeff Petrie scoring his first 2 goals of the season, and then Husso making 23 saves for his first victory. I mean, that was one of those games that I kind of can look back. If the Wings do make the playoffs, like Chris was talking about, you know, we're so many games out still, but if they make it the playoffs, Toronto's that game a couple nights ago is
That
one
was
of the
a statement.
That was a statement game. Toronto is one of the best teams in the NHL, and Detroit played them and they won.
You guys played a great game. I mean, to be fair, I mean, Toronto, it didn't also help. I mean, I'm not going to say this was why we lost, but our goalie was out. And
Yeah,
Detroit
and you guys
also,
have been going through a lot. I've been reading a lot about it. You guys have been injured.
Yeah,
Kind of like the Detroit Lions in a way, but
a little bit. But at the same time, I mean, it's taking us to take a little step back from stop being flashy and playing a more methodical, balanced game, which don't get me wrong, I love the flashiness that Toronto has. But honestly, with these injuries, it's helped us play more strategic, more defensive, and honestly play better games. Because if the very next day, what did we do? We took all of our frustration out on Buffalo, and that Wings game looked like it was just a fluke.
Yeah, you did.
It was great.
I mean, it was one of those things as a 1-2 combo.
Exactly. So, I mean, hey, injuries happen, losses happen, but at the same time, showing that Toronto didn't let that one loss define who they were, and the fact that, yeah, the Leafs played a complete game. I mean, it also does suck. Marner was offsides. I don't see how it was. I'm mad still to that day. But, I mean, hey, it was a great game in the end, and honestly, if you're Detroit, it's something to be happy about.
Yeah, and the Wings have won the last 3 of their 4 games, dropping 1 to the Flyers, which they kind of made up for last night, and that was a great game. I mean, the Flyers, I mean, they were talking a little bit about on Chris's podcast on TNT there. They were stating like, hey, you know, the Flyers look like they're out at Windsor last night. It was one of those things they were cracking jokes because they look terrible. They made some
Flyers are young, but like they need something. Like the Flyers of old, back when Chris was, I think, back still in the league, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. Flyers were tough.
Flyers were very tough. I mean, they were in the Cup Finals not too long ago themselves. I mean, not to say they're that level anymore. No. But when you think about it, Flyers, Philadelphia as a sports city in general.
Yeah.
Tough environment.
Philly's just tough in general. I mean,
it's a great sports city. And honestly, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. Build your perfect city. I said Denver. Looking back, I would love the city of Philadelphia over the city of Denver.
Oh, definitely.
Because the fans, the atmosphere, they live and breathe intensity.
Yeah.
To quote this show, Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's not always Philly. It's not always sunny
It's
there.
not always Philly. And right now it's a cloudy, organization as they're 2 points above the Wings right now in the race for the wild card in the Eastern Conference. Toronto has that right now. It's secured only, marked off second by Florida and then Boston in the Atlantic Division.
I think Boston's going to fall off.
I do too. I
mean, as much as I love seeing Boston do well and everything.
It's crazy because they fired their head coach.
Saw that. I was very, very surprised they fired Montgomery. That shocked me completely because, I mean, yeah, you had a historic season last year, but I mean, obviously history doesn't really help you when you're the best team in hockey. We all know President's Cup winners never do well.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. Fire Montgomery. Montgomery wasn't the problem. the team's old. The guys
Yeah.
that are the core team, I'm not saying they should have retired, but at the same time, I am. I mean, they need to start getting younger again.
Definitely. Now, I want to kind of centralize this on the Wings here because Chris made some points that, I can kind of see what he's saying. We're
He
only
made some great points.
only 4 points out of the wild card right now, and it's still early in the season. We're only it's only December 19th, so we're getting through it a little bit. Do you think I'm a Wings fan? I'm a diehard. You know me. If I'm sitting here right now from an outside perspective, you think I should have confidence in this team to kind of make a run? Because they kind of look like they're waking up a little bit. DeBrincat and Kane look a little better. They're starting to kind of jive and,
if
get
you guys
to it.
can hit your groove, if you guys can stay consistent, stay healthy.
Yeah, that's
is
key.
everything. If you guys can stay healthy, I can say you guys can make the wild card.
Okay.
But it's only if it's like our Lions. If you guys can stay healthy,
yeah,
especially your netminder, like Chris was saying, a netminder means everything. If you look at, like he said, Vasilevsky, you look at Igor Shesterkin of the Rangers. The dude was a 4th round pick, and now look at what he's turned into. And it's weird to think about this, but at the same time, goalies are the most important position on a hockey team. And they can, you could have a really good offense, but if your goalie is absolute dog water, you're a sitting duck.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I mean, honestly, if Detroit's health of goalies, or even if you have kind of like Boston had 2 years ago with the tandem, if you can have healthy goalies where your goalie's not your liability and your offense is, you'll still win games because you'll be kept in the game by your goalie play.
Another guy that I think could really help us out that's in the AHL right now with offense as far as it goes, because he was making some good points. The Wings only score on power plays. We need to change that. I think a guy that could really help us out is Grand Rapids Griffins' own Nate Danielson. He was drafted in 2023. He was a first-round 9th pick overall. I think this kid's good.
I saw him play 2 weeks ago. The dude is great. I mean,
he's got 3
Wings,
goals and 13 assists on the season, 6 points. His plus minus is, 2+, 23 penalty minutes. I don't like that, but he's played in 27 games. If we get into a situation, I think it could be like a Jackson Jobe Tiger thing where they bring up the young kid. I mean, I could see him playing with along the lines of, DeBrincat, Kane, and maybe even throw Larkin in there as well in the power play. Make some excitement. Make the Grand Rapids community be like, I want Nate Danielson to score a goal in the playoffs if they make it.
Speaking of Grand Rapids, too, Grand Rapids currently right now is the number 1 team in the Western Conference. They're great.
They're unbelievable.
The best, I think, but here's the thing. It's their goalie.
Yeah,
their
really
goalie,
is.
Sebastian Cossa, is a tank.
And
the
the
dude
thing
is 6'8", 275 of pure wall. The dude is wonderful as a goalie. And like Chris was saying, Trey Augustine, the stud goalie from Michigan State, the dude is a generational talent. He's already been compared to Marty Brodeur. The dude is
unbelievable. I can't wait to get him in the Wings jersey. That's going to be great because that's one of the things the Wings have struggled with maybe since the days of Chris Osgood and Jimmy Howard when it was kind of like those 1-2 combos. But having, Husso, Cossa, and then this guy coming out of Michigan State.
The kid's 20 years old, and
it's going to be a rotation.
So
it's going to be like a pitching rotation.
And that's what you want.
Yeah, and that's what you really want. You want, guys feeling the vibes. And I think, as much as people, bitch and moan, oh, the Wings aren't doing this, Wings are. I think the future is bright, like, Chris was saying.
It's just going to take a little bit of time.
I think people need to be patient.
Michigan State hockey, Pop and I will be there February before the Super Bowl.
And we'll actually be doing a episode live from the Battle for the D, so that should be exciting.
This, you guys Michigan hockey it's getting there. It's getting better. I mean, the thing is too.
Michigan hockey's been great for the past couple of years.
Always. But the thing is too.
You mean Michigan hockey overall? Okay.
Yeah, Michigan hockey overall. I think you guys are getting there. It's just obviously it doesn't help that obviously hockey, youth, it's young guys, and I mean
it is.
It doesn't help that youth sometimes translates good, but at the same time, being young doesn't always help, which sucks because you can be young and really good like Connor Bedard, but you're also sometimes undersized too. There's a lot of things that play into it where as long as development's everything, how someone develops. Because if you look at it, the guys that
hockey
young,
is also such a streaky sport where
really is.
You could have a guy first round draft pick and then he gets into the minors and then just nothing happens. So it's almost like you're playing craps. You never know what the end roll is going to be. It's going to be 7, it's going to be 11, it's going to be 2, 3, or 12. You don't really know. And that's the thing that's kind of we hope that this goalie's good, but right now everything's tracking towards it is. I'm excited for this season to see if these guys can turn it around it's one of those things that I don't know if we were chatting on air about this, but it seems like from the media perspective, because I saw something on FanDuel last night. Speaking of just FanDuel and just everything, the Wings game last night was kind of crazy, despite, even the antics on the ice. People got in fights. Like, there was like a guy that was like body slammed and stuff. Like, there was like chaos. And then even before the game with the head coach, he was trying to hype some guys up by hitting his leg and getting the guys going. They're all kind of like looking at him like, really, dude? But like that's also concerning as a Wings fan. Does our head coach not have the locker room anymore?
From what it seems like, it doesn't. But at the same time,
so they got to understand, either play for the guy next to you or just
play for your teammates. I mean,
I think that's what it's about.
I mean, Boston's doing it right now, but at the same time, if you're Detroit, you have to keep energy going.
Yeah, you really, really do. And it's one of those things that, it's going to be interesting to see what goes on as far as all that stuff goes. But
it's a young season, and I mean, you just, like Chris was saying too, though, I mean, with how you guys didn't make it last year, it really did not help you that you guys lost 11 games because of Larkin's injury. You can't afford that if you want the playoff push again.
Indeed. Now, let's transition from NHL. Let's go right to Pat on the bets. Let's bring him up on Zoom. Ready, Evan? Let's do this. All right, man. Welcome back to the show. Last week, you did a little better. You did a little better on the bets, Pat. But what do you got for us this week? I'm excited to see what you got. What do you have for us, buddy?
Well, we're trying to claw back our way to even. Last week, going 2 out of 5 didn't really help us. Before that, we were even on the series. So now 13 and 14, and we're going to be trying to make that back up. Off with college basketball. Road teams plus 2.5. Hammer them. Last year, it hit almost 80% of the time. And if you're getting that minus 110 odds, you're beating the bookie, because you have to win at 60% in order to beat the bookie. And with that margin of error, hammer it. Even if it doesn't hit this week, I'll take that loss on the record, because I know that this is a very smart bet. Next, moving on, listening to a little bit of Detroit's own Mike Valeni. Shout out 97.1 The Ticket. He gave me a couple, he had Florida at minus 14.5 when I was listening to his podcast, and it's actually dropped all the way down to 10.5. That's why I'm hammering Florida, and I'm also taking Georgia State money line in that parlay, trying to get 2 minus bets, combine them into a positive, get that positive parlay going, put a unit behind it, hopefully win some more money. And then we're going to be moving it over to staying with Georgia Southern. I think they're going to win. That's why I took them in the money line. I also think they're going to win by 3.5. It was at 5.5, and it's dropped down, and I almost was going to take it at 5.5. So at 3.5, this is a great pick. With football tonight, these will be posted, but by the time you're listening to it, you'll already know if I won. The Chargers minus 2.5, and I really like them here. I think the Broncos give up too many medium-sized plays, and that's what the Chargers are all about. They take that 5-6 yard when the Broncos bend and don't break. The Chargers will bend them over, and I think they're going to take that 2.5 points. And I love Harbaugh here. I just really think that that's one game that after a couple weeks of being a little rough, Harbaugh is going to get those boys fired up. And it's more of just a gut feeling Harbaugh is going to get the boys going than even like a logistical football pick. But I also think that looking at the numbers and the lines, Chargers here is probably the smart bet. But it's one of those that some people might not want to touch, and I don't blame you if you do. But personally, I did lay some money on the Chargers. Now, our final bet is we're going over to the NHL. And because we have Chelios on here, we thought that we'd have to hit an NHL bet. And someone told me long ago that if the over-under is at 5.5 in hockey, the over. A little research on the teams, but with Blues and Lightning, pretty confident that it'll hit that 6 points. Because just think, 3-2 game, empty netter. It happens. Or they tie it up and it gets over. It's so common that 5.5, the over will hit on that. So I'm feeling pretty good about the picks this week and would love to hear your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, no, I mean, to start off, the Chargers pick, in my mind, we'll discuss it more in the show later, but I honestly would take the Broncos here to cover that. I think it's going to be a closer game. I think it may even be Broncos by 7, maybe 7.5. Evan, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I would it's an interesting matchup because the Chargers are very depleted on offense, but at the same time, they have the number one scoring defense in
Yeah.
all of the NFL. So honestly, it maybe their offense doesn't score much.
They're playing
Maybe
Bo
their
Pick.
defense gives them some breaks.
Amen, Evan. They're playing Bo Pick.
So it's exactly the best. This is like on paper a really fun, exciting matchup tonight. I mean, you look at it; both teams are in the playoffs. Chargers need a win to make it in for sure.
Yeah.
But even still, it's so promising to see these two young teams that were not really that good or have been a little bit of bottom feeders for the good part of the so quote unquote Chiefs dynasty, so to speak, come up and actually make games competitive. Like, it's great to see the AFC West is actually sort of competitive for once. Like, we normally don't see that. So like giving it 2.5. I don't know. It could be a game of defense for all we know. I mean, both teams have very good defenses. If you look at Broncos last week, the Broncos defense was quite scary. But at the same time, last week too, Baker Mayfield made the Chargers' number one scoring defense look absolutely garbage. So, I mean, this game has so many things that could go any different way, and who knows what could happen. I mean, I love it. I'm excited to see what happens and who's able to come on top, either the youngster in Bo Nix or, even though he's still young too, Justin Herbert as the veteran. I mean, it's going to be a great game.
It's a battle for the future of the AFC, and I like it. I mean, it's one of those things that I agree. Pat, I mean, what what are you thinking about this matchup tonight?
How old are you, bro?
I mean, he is. Both of them are our age. I know. I feel old too. But even still, I mean, he's been in the league since what? When did Tua get drafted? 2020, was it?
Yeah, he's been in there for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
It's still, I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, none of us were legal to drink.
Yeah. I mean, he is technically a veteran as much as like, he's getting up there. I mean, I wouldn't consider him one of the premier veterans. I would say more of a young guy. But
I mean, he's his ups and downs. I mean, he's been hampered a little bit with injuries, but I mean, the dude was a stud at Oregon. If you guys don't remember, the dude was an amazing quarterback at Oregon. Like, even still, I mean, I would say it's weird to think he's been in the years for 5 years now. I mean, it just makes you feel old just thinking about it.
It does. It really, really does. I mean, when you take a look at it, like Dylan Larkin, he's been in the league since he was 18.
Right? I mean, if you look at Connor McDavid's only 26, and my Austin Matthews, Austin's only 25 years old.
That's crazy. But
the thing is, these guys, it's crazy to think they've been playing in the league well before they could drink.
Yeah.
Or just the fact that, like, all this stuff. I mean, the fact Herbert was drafted during the COVID year. Look about it this way. 5 years ago, we were all sitting around at Zoom. We wouldn't even be across from each other right now. Bob, 5 years
we
ago.
wouldn't. We'd be on this Zoom.
Like 5 years just feels like an eternity. At this point.
Crazy. And it's even crazier to think that, when you talk about, a team like the Lightning, when they were dominant for those 3 years, I think it was like in the mid 2019s before that was
during
really,
the COVID year too.
Yeah, during
they
the
were
COVID year.
During the COVID year.
I mean, you talk about a Lightning team that really hasn't kind of let up. Let off the gas a little bit. They lose Stamkos, but it's like one of those things that they're kind of still in the conversation with some stuff.
It doesn't hurt they lost him either. I mean,
no.
Honestly, they were the oldest. Get the youth in there, exactly. I was going to say, they were at the time, the oldest team in the league.
But
They've
then you run
younger,
into a problem like the Wings do. Now, Pat, a question that I wanted to kind of tie in here with the sports betting thing. We're all wearing Wings stuff despite Evans, disgust at it since he is a
this feels
Maple Leafs
so
fan.
Wrong in every level.
What do you think, the Wings have won 4 out of their last 3 games. What do you think about them, really, when do you think you're going to have confidence in them winning, betting them again? Do you think, if they can get out of this streaky area of hockey, do you think you'll eventually bring in a Wings pick?
The Red Wings' third and fourth line are just not good. They just can't keep up with the rest of the league. When you go out there and Larkin is skating 20, 30 minutes almost because he's just dying, trying to salvage anything and going all out, you have Larkin who's literally diving over the ice trying to make plays. And then you have your third, fourth liners come out there, and you know that they're just going to get beat on defense. They're going to get beat back. They're going to be chasing people. They're going to be tailing. There's going to be breakaways. They're going to try and shift and not get the puck past the blue line like we did in 09. Feel like we haven't learned anything. And
yeah. I mean, if you think about it too, I mean, shifts shouldn't be minutes long. I mean, not to throw it to basketball, no one should be playing like Jimmy Butler back in the finals, playing all 48 minutes.
That's
in hockey. Shifts are 30 seconds, if not 90 seconds at max. And if you're playing 2 minutes on a shift, by then you're gashed. And it's recovery time. If you need to be back in there, say you're on the power play, say Dylan Larkin's been playing for 2 minutes on the ice. Oh, sweet, we're on penalty. Yeah, good luck. At that point, then you're just like, well, you got 50% Dylan Larkin, not 100% Dylan Larkin.
And that's the thing. And like, it's very interesting because, we played a great game last night. I think, just the way the Wings kind of controlled the puck and were able to get turnovers against Philly, a team they lost to earlier in the year, like 2 games before, or 1 game beforehand, or 2 games beforehand. They got a lot of ability there. They got turnovers. I think this Wings team can play good. I think it's just, again, they have their top players gassed, as you say, and the third and fourth lines can't hang. It's just interesting to see going down the line. But, I want to hear your opinion on this. What do you think going forward on betting the Lions is? Because obviously they have a lot of guys injured. Do you think that's a safe bet? Because they're playing Chicago this weekend. If I'm a sports bettor and, I want to put some money on the Lions, where do you think I should go as far as that? Or do you think it's even a safe bet at all going forward?
Personally, I didn't put it on the sheet, and I'm a little scared. But every week I will bet the Lions, and if they go down, I will live bet them to my detriment. But I think the Lions.
Bears scare me. Lions. Thanksgiving was not easy.
Yeah. Sorry. The hell, my computer's acting up. Sorry, we'll cut this. All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Go back in. The Lions going forward, playing, the Bears, Niners, and Vikings, they need to win these games. They have to. They're ahead of the Eagles, and they need home field advantage. Right now, in order to make the Super Bowl, that's the only hope. Unfortunately, with all the amount of injuries that we have, in order to win out, our offense needs to play perfect, and we need to rely on 2 to 3 mistakes for every team. We can no longer just beat teams by just playing our perfect brand of football, I don't think. We're just too injured. Not that the Lions are bad, but we're going to have to rely on a couple mistakes from the other teams. And 1 or 2 games, that's okay. But 7 more games until the Super Bowl, and you realistically, if you actually think you can win the Super Bowl, you need to win all 7, or else you're going to Philly and you're losing to Philly.
Philly is not a fun place to play.
Good bounces to go our way. That's why, personally, I'm probably going to be sticking clear. I think they'll beat the Bears. I'd love to see what the spread is coming out on it. I didn't even look at it before the game because I wasn't going to bet it.
Okay.
But I don't think the Bears will keep it close this time. I
hope not.
This might be just, okay, we're going to go out one more time and try and kill them, which it might be the reason that they've been getting hurt. Why do we need to beat every team by 20, 30 points? Why is Jared Goff still out there in quarters when we're winning by 20 points? Why not give Hendon Hooker some time and allow people to not get in?
Facts. Preach.
I was going to say, Hendon Hooker is not a bad backup to have either. I mean, the dude was
all SEC player
decorated at Tennessee. I mean, the dude made Tennessee put him back on the map.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, the last good Tennessee quarterback besides him, Heisman contention too. I mean, last time Tennessee was relevant before obviously recent bias was back in 97 with Peyton Manning. So, I mean, and even before that, you got Reggie White. Like, I mean, you look at it, Hendon Hooker is the best backup you can have if you are Detroit. But, like, at the same time, rest everyone, please. For the love of God,
if games don't matter,
people.
I would agree. Rest everyone. I think we're all saying that there. Pat, I'm excited to see kind of how these bets come out. And hopefully, you're 7 for 7 this week. That'd be amazing. We'll see the first time tonight what it is. Good luck, buddy. We'll be watching and following you.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for joining today. All right. Well, those are some.
Where are you?
Yeah, exactly. Those are some takes from Pat, man. Those are I liked them. They were interesting. Now let's, he was talking a little college football. I want to hear your thoughts on the Heisman Trophy winner, Travis Hunter.
Oh man, I mean, it's sad that it wasn't Genty. I know, but at the same time, Hunter had an unbelievable season too. I mean, it was honestly, if you look at the votes, it was the closest Heisman Trophy race since '97.
Yeah.
It was extremely difficult to decide who it was. I mean, Genty made an amazing case, and so did Travis Hunter. I mean,
yeah, he did.
Ultimately, Travis won it, but even still, either one of them could have won it on any given Saturday.
Yeah.
It just so happened to be Travis this year. I mean,
I think it's, you kind of came at me and said it's because, Travis Hunter had more snaps. It's like he plays both sides of the ball. What do you want from Ashton Genty? And it's one of those things that, I'm sad for Genty, but he's going to get paid. At the end of the day, does winning the Heisman Trophy really, give you this outstanding career? I think, honestly, as we talk about, we talked about in the earlier segment of the NHL, I think Ashton Genty has a higher ceiling than Travis Hunter does in the league.
I would agree.
Just because of his size, because, people have already been saying that, Travis Hunter is small. He's too small to play wide receiver, too small to play corner. He's just a scrawny guy, and he's got to put on some weight. And sometimes with that putting on the weight and muscle, you get a little slower. And the thing that we love about Travis Hunter, and the reason why he won the Heisman Trophy, is his ability to cut in quick speed. So I think you're going to lose a little bit of that as he goes into the pros.
And not every Heisman winner pans out in the NFL either.
Yes.
We see it that it does pan out here and there.
Yeah, it does.
But there are times where there have been guys, I'm not
Johnny Manziel?
There's one. Not to dog on Cleveland or anything, but Jameis Winston.
Winston, I think
he had a rough start, yes.
Yeah.
But you could make
he's
that
also
argument.
played some tough teams. You could make that argument as well.
But in the beginning of his career, not to say LASIK was the cause of it, but even still.
Yeah, when you can't
look at
see,
that,
you can't throw.
Or some of the guys that in the way past, I couldn't name them off the top of my head, but not every Heisman Trophy winner had transitions to the NFL at the level that some of them do. You see Lamar doing well.
Yeah.
You see the guys that are there do well, but sometimes the guys that don't win it actually do better than the guy who won it. Luckily it wasn't a popularity contest by any means, because honestly, it'd really suck if it was. But if we're looking at it from a logistical standpoint, that was a wonderful Heisman race. In this year of college football, it was chaos throughout. And even still, it was a special season, and the Heisman finally showed it. There were other awards that should have been given to other people, sure.
Yeah, there should have been. But
even still, both of the guys, whoever it was well deserving. And I can't say either of them shouldn't have won it. But
I don't know what Siri's going on about, but what that was about. But yeah, sorry for shut up, Siri.
Exactly. But as we talk college football, we got the first round of the playoffs coming up this weekend.
Yeah, we do. And the first game is Friday on ABC/ESPN at 8 o'clock. And this is going to be a good one, man. Indiana versus Notre Dame.
Either way, the city of Indy or the state of Indiana will be on fire. Regardless of who wins, it's going to be on fire.
Where are you going with this game? Because I like a team that it's not favored by 7 points. I like Cinderella stories. I think Notre Dame, I think they're a fake number 7. I think losing to NIU showed a lot. I think the Hoosiers, they barely lost to Ohio State. That was one of those games that I look back on their schedule. Let me make sure I'm correct with that. It was 38-15, and they had some bad breaks in that game. Yeah, so it wasn't a barely a loss, but it was a kind of decisive loss. But I think they can do it, man.
I think they can hang with them. I worry that Indiana, with the way they played their schedule, the best team they played all year was Ohio State.
Yeah,
I worry that might be not to say Indiana is a weak team by any means, but I think that might. that might be their downfall, is that they haven't played anyone big.
Yeah, if you go, I mean, the reciprocal formula here, Michigan beat Ohio State, Indiana beat Michigan, so technically is,
Yes, but Indiana almost lost to Michigan too, though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Like,
so
Indiana, I'm not going to call them frauds, but I'll say this. The way they had their schedule, if you look at it like now,
yeah,
all of the teams they played were all bottom feeding schools.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say Indiana is just a fraud. No.
Yeah,
but
we'll see on Friday night. That's
I was going to say, I mean, it should be a fun game. It's the first time that Notre Dame has not been televised on NBC, and fun now.
Yeah, let's see if they can.
Let's see if they can pull it off.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. But then we got the Saturday games.
Ooh, these are fun,
and these are going to be a fun day of football. So if you're doing nothing, I would highly recommend sit on your couch and watch these bowl games, because I am sure is excited. So Saturday, to round out the night, you got Tennessee and Ohio State.
Go Vols, baby.
Go Vols. I mean, I think Ohio State's in for a rude awakening.
I hope so. I hope it just goes downhill from the first snap. It would just be so much fun to just see a Tennessee, I'm not going to say blow up, but just a Tennessee full on belt.
Yeah. And then
would just run all over them, throw all over them, just have some fun in Ohio and just make it fun. Make it fun.
Definitely. And then you were talking about earlier the state of Indiana being on fire. Well, the state of the Dakotas, North and South Dakota, will be on fire on Saturday as they battle for the FCS championship semifinals. Both South Dakota State and North Dakota State both made this. This is going to be an interesting game. It's in Fargo, North Dakota. Yeah, this is going to be a battle of two teams that, we kind of mentioned it a little. I mean, maybe we mentioned it a little earlier. We were kind of doing multiple takes with the betting thing. But, North Dakota State played last night an Alabama team in basketball. Tough. So I'm thinking North Dakota State is fired up. I'm putting my money on North Dakota State to come out and make a statement against South Dakota here in Fargo.
It's going to be fun. When these two teams always play, it is electrically fun.
Yes.
All the teams, it's always a high scoring, crazy affair. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, normally we see this game as the national championship for FCS, but
yeah. Well, you got South Dakota and Montana State on the other side of the bracket. Ooh. So, and they're playing at 3:30.
Montana State is a scary team.
Yeah.
Scary team. And I mean, coming in, they're undefeated, and it will be fun.
It will be
a lot of fun.
But before all of that, we get to see if James Franklin's truly a fraud. At noon, same kick time as the FCS semifinals. But we have SMU and Penn State. I'm going SMU. I fully believe that James Franklin is a fraud. We're going to see if Indiana's a fraud this weekend. I don't think Indiana's a fraud. I think you're going to see an SMU and Indiana shock the world and be kind of those Cinderella stories. And then maybe, if, it all depends on what Ohio State team comes out versus Tennessee. Because, you could see, an Ohio State team being like, all right, let's get back to normal. Because I think Jim Harbaugh's comments a few years ago calling, Ryan Day, some people are, hit a triple and are lucky to get to third base. Some people are born on third base. I think Jim Harbaugh's mental games and calling them soft and the consistent badgering of Ohio State that I love Jim Harbaugh for is something that is continuous, and it's great because of it. And I think, for a Ohio State team to come out and beat a Tennessee, Ryan Day has to get that mental lapse out of his head that he isn't soft and go back to his all-time great wide receivers and start throwing the ball a little bit more. I think if Ohio State airs the ball out a little bit more, unlike they did against Michigan, they can win this game easily.
Yeah, but here's the issue. You have two all SEC cornerbacks both on each side of the ball.
Yeah, you do.
I'll say this. The fact that if we're segueing to the Penn State SMU game, it's sad it's not a whiteout.
I'm very sad.
It's not a night game and it's not a whiteout.
Yeah.
How sad.
I really do agree.
I think Drew Aller's coming back for next year. So that's huge for them. But at the same time, I want Penn State to pull something. Okay. I want to see him. I want to see him succeed a little bit. Just they made it to the Big Championship for the first time since back in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. No. I want to see them do something fun. Just so that they're a great team, and it'd be fun to see them succeed in something where they aren't like second best, or like the fact that when we had the 14 playoff, they would always be the team left out just because they never made it to the Big Ten title game.
Yeah.
Now they can prove, hey, we made it. Now let's do something about it.
Yeah. And, we're talking about teams that need to prove some things and some guys that, Drew Allard coming back for his senior year. I think this year he needs to prove some things that Penn State Illini faithful. But it's one of those things that you talk about proving games, and a game that I thought would be more of a proving game for a young quarterback in Jaden Daniels versus the Saints in the NFL. I thought this game was going to be a blowout. We talked about it last week a little bit. I'm surprised it was so close like it was. But it's one of those things that it's the NFL. Both teams are going to be close, but I really do think a thing that they can't do if they're playoff hopefuls is Jaden Daniels have the issues, commit 9 penalties. You can't be a quarterback, can't be a leader of that team and commit 9 penalties. You got to be better on third down, kid. Like, you're playing some good teams in this league. There's some great teams out there with great defenses, especially in the NFC and in that division in the NFC. You can't be 9 for 17 on third downs, and you can't give up 8 sacks if you're offensive line. This offense runs through Jaden Daniels. They got to play smarter around him. Like, in my mind, the Commanders have what it takes. They just falter when it comes to games like this, and they almost gave away the game. If the Saints had made that 2-point conversion try, we'd be talking about a whole different level of pissed off that I would be today. But what are your thoughts on that game? So, the breakdown.
It was wild. It was wild. But, it is great to see the Commanders are back slowly to relevancy. We haven't seen that Washington team be relevant since the RG3 era.
Yeah. We really haven't.
God, that was long ago.
And he blew his knee out pretty quickly.
May rest in peace.
Yeah.
But I'll say this. If the Commanders can play the way they've been playing early in the year, or just play consistent good football, they'll be a team they are now, but like a team in the formidable future that will be consistent. If it wasn't for playing Philadelphia in their own division, I would still say they could be the top of any other division, other than obviously NFC North.
Yeah.
They just play.
The Vikings control that right now. In my mind.
Control what?
The NFC North.
I want to say okay, but at the same time, Lions are injured, sure.
Yeah. I'm just getting word that David Montgomery is on to his third opinion now on his knee. So things aren't so clear about David Montgomery.
If you didn't see though, Hutch is like, I'm playing in the Super Bowl.
That was,
you guys just got to get there.
Yeah. It's one of the things that oh God, it's crazy.
Injuries. It sucks.
Yeah.
This Detroit team has just been hammered with injuries.
And
the fact they're where they're at right now with all the injuries they have, it's insane.
Well, according to Ian Rapperstant, he just tweeted, Montgomery will rehab with the hopes that he can return some point in the postseason. So everyone's gearing up. Everyone's like, let's get to the Super Bowl, guys. We'll be there, but I don't know if they're going to be there. You talk about a team like the Eagles putting their stamp on the state of Philadelphia this weekend. I think the Eagles are the team to beat in the NFL right now. And even in the NFC, I think the Lions fall big. They're going to beat Chicago. They're going to beat a San Francisco team, and they may have a good game against the Vikings, as we were saying, but I think the Vikings are going to control the NFC North now, sadly. I think the NFC as a whole is controlled by the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think Detroit will make the playoffs, but if we get guys, if we're getting guys back like David Montgomery, I think we can compete against like a Tampa and LA. But my thing is losing as much as we did on the defense this weekend with Carlton Davis, with Aleem McNeil out for the season. You have pretty much an entire defense and then some on the IL right now. It's one of those things that you can, do a punch out game, a high scoring game, but defense wins championships and offense wins games. And I'll say it over and over again. This Lions team, I know they'll be adding Anzalone and a few other players back, but that defensive line, the game of football is won between the line of scrimmages. And I just think right now, the way the Eagles are playing with Jalen Hurts, throwing for 4 touchdowns and 290 yards, and his offense at 401 yards, I think if, we get to the NFC Championship, we're going to get routed because our defense can't, consistently keep up with these teams that we're playing. Like we saw it versus the Bills this weekend, which we'll get into a little bit later. But What are your opinions
Philly's just
right now?
scared.
Do you think that my predictions are kind of accurate as far as we go?
I mean, I think you're right, but at the same time, as being hopeful for Detroit, I mean, we want this Super Bowl, sure, but at the same time,
I don't think it's realistic.
it's at this point in the season. It sucks to say that now.
I think that it's a damn travesty what has happened to this city. We've been battered and bashed, and Mike Valenti was touching on it. He's a New York Giants fan. He was like so disgusted and he felt for us because we don't deserve this. We've been hooked on this team for so long, and the fact that this year is not looking like our year after all due to all the injuries, and then we have questions of coaches leaving. It's one of those things that I just kind of like shake my head, and then you get the Packers, winning a decisive game versus the Seahawks and kind of even throwing their hat into the ring in the NFC as well. I mean, and maybe that was despite Geno Smith going down in that game, but the NFC North and the NFC in general is dangerous right now, especially with the Buccaneers playing like they are and they beat the Chargers. We have games this week. What's your readout right now for the Broncos-Chargers game as we kind of keep going along here?
I think it could be a shootout, but also it could be a defensive game. Both teams have great defenses, but also teams have good offenses. I mean, it's hard to say because you look at LA's defense, the number one scoring defense, but then Baker torched them for 40 points, and you're just like,
oh yeah,
all right, so what happened to this defense?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the Broncos too. Broncos have a well-rounded team, but at the same time, they played a team way too close, and it's a little worrisome. So there's a lot of things that, like, when the Broncos played the Colts last week, it just didn't look like the Broncos team that we've seen all year. Yeah. But now, but then thankfully the second half they turned it on. I mean, this game, both teams are in the playoffs, but I think if you're the Chargers, you have to win this. Broncos are already 100%. Broncos are already in the playoffs. If you're a Chargers fan, you need to win this game, not just for morale, but to continue to keep yourself in that playoff hunt.
Yeah. And then another game I wanted to kind of highlight here, Steelers and Ravens. Now, the Steelers coming off a big loss to Philadelphia, giving up 401 yards to Jalen Hurts, and now they're facing, I think, an even more dangerous quarterback in Lamar Jackson as far as a dual threat with King Henry right beside him. I mean,
the Steelers have two very important games coming on.
I mean, you talk about this Philadelphia team. It's one of those things that
it's a juggernaut. It's a juggernaut that if the Detroit Lions with their hampered defense runs into it, I mean, I love Detroit and all that, but I think Philly's just gonna pound us to the ground. I mean, not just through the running game, but through the aerial attack as well.
I do agree.
And their defense as well. It's a team built out of a lab. It is a team that will bear you down until you surrender. I mean, the fact that the Steelers could not do anything.
Yeah, that was
that explains a lot.
It does. And now the Steelers have a very big game coming back versus the Ravens and that dual head threat there.
And then the Chiefs to the following week. So,
yeah, so they have running into
it's a gauntlet.
Yeah, it is. And then you got Broncos and Chargers. I think that's gonna be a great game.
I mean, it will be interesting. I think it's what we see. I mean, whoever wins. I mean, not to say either team is the future, but I think we'll see what each team is made of. And both teams have sound defenses, but also we've seen that with their sound defenses, they've been gashed. They've been torched. It's gonna be very interesting tonight. And obviously, if you're a Chargers fan, your playoff hopes hinge on this game. Yeah.
I mean, I would fully agree there. Now, the games that I'm thinking the NFC now are not really games. The NFC doesn't really have a lot of good games this week besides the Eagles, Commanders, and Vikings and Seahawks. But I would even consider, the Seahawks be having a good game there because of K9 and Geno. And
is K9 back healthy, though?
They're both questionable still.
That's why my fantasy matchups
and
are not doing well.
I think that the Vikings will stomp their feet.
Agree. I mean, it doesn't help. K9 being hurt has
Lions.
Been very, very difficult.
Yeah. And then, with the Eagles and Commanders, who you got there? Jane Daniels needs a better game. We talked about it earlier.
They played early in the
penalties and the lack of conversions on third down. What do you think of this game?
I think, honestly, I would love to see Jane Daniels win this time.
Yes.
I mean, they lost last game, but the last time they played. but it wasn't as bad of a loss as the score showed. I mean, Philly played a great game. Philly's a great team, but if the Commanders can play the style of football we saw in the regular season or like earlier in the season, I think they'll make it close. They might. I honestly, they have a chance. But if Philly gets off to a hot start and puts 14 on them, it's over.
Yeah.
Philly's just that kind of team that like if they have a lead, they're holding it. They're not. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Now this is just interesting to see kind of what will happen in the NFL and the predictions. I think a team like the Chargers may get cut from the AFC playoffs. We'll see. I think the Bucks, Rams, and Packers are all going to make the playoffs, along with the Vikings and the Lions. It's gonna be a battle for both these teams going down the line, I think the Lions are going to be the first man out of the playoffs. I hate to say it.
I won't say that, but I'll say this: I think they'll make it. It's just it's going to be
they're limping.
Exactly,
they're a wounded animal. To put it in terms of
when they played the Bills. I mean, yeah, they almost got it, but at the same time, that could have easily been a blowout by Buffalo. I mean, Josh Allen played one hell of a game. I mean, not to discredit Jared Goff, but Josh Allen put the team fully on his back and said, "This is my MVP year.
Yeah,
no one is taking this, and if someone so help me does, there's going to be some issues."
Now, another Detroit team that is also plagued by injuries. 3 key injuries. Isaiah Stewart, Jaden Ivey, and Tobias Harris are all out for the Pistons tonight. They are currently playing right now, I believe, 7 o'clock. So we have an hour until they tip off versus the Jazz. But it's one of those things that, oh, God, the Pistons, I feel bad for them. So that's tomorrow. No, that's not. Today's 19th. Yeah. No, it's one of those things that I feel bad for the Pistons. They're 4.5-point favorites. They just beat a Heat team. They're 10th, they're 5th in the Central, 10th in the division. It's one of those things that I think they're going to eventually get going, but they need these guys healthy.
That too. I mean, also too, the hard part too with the NBA. The NBA right now is at an all-time low with viewership.
Yeah, and that was surprising. I mean,
if you look at the NBA, the glory years it's over. It's over.
Yeah,
and the NBA was the best back in the 90s.
And I think baseball is honestly in a better position than the NBA because baseball is on, current divisional, networks. They're not on. The NBA is too secluded with their, special packages you have to buy. And
it's too and also too, if you think about it, the amount of if you watch a basketball game, it's just not fun. You look at a guy wrong and, oh, that's a penalty or that's a foul.
And then the coaches' reviews and
it's slower than baseball at this point.
It really is. And the last 10 minutes of a game could take 3 hours. It's what are we doing here?
There's so much that just needs to be fixed.
And then they got rid of the physicality of the game. College at least has it. We saw it a little bit last night. I think college basketball in a way is taking over what the NBA had at one time. Growing up, I would, the debate of LeBron, Kobe, and Dirk and all the guys coming into the league or coming out and who are established pros and stuff.
Jordan's still the GOAT.
Yes. I mean, I would fully agree with that, but a lot of people disagree with that take. But it's one of those things that it's college basketball in my mind, especially with right now with the SEC doing what they do. We talked about a little bit earlier.
The SEC is now taking over all sports.
It is. I mean, you got Tennessee, Auburn, Kentucky, Duke. I mean, Duke's not part of the SEC.
But
Alabama, Florida,
Auburn, the schools that we're so accustomed to seeing the SEC run the football world. Now the thing is, we're seeing it in the basketball world, and it's concerning. I mean, college basketball specifically has always been Big Ten, ACC. Now we see the new coming SEC, and it's just it's a rude awakening. Yeah. It's the big boys down there recruiting, committing, transfer portal, everything. The programs that we're so used to seeing of the Blue Bloods
are Michigan,
Kansas.
Duke, Kansas.
They're fading out.
Yeah, they're fading out. But I think, you talk about Michigan fading out. I think they're kind of having a resurgence. They faded out a couple years ago with the loss of their head coach and Beeline, and then we replaced him with Howard. And I think Dusty May has really, I watched the game last night, really recaptured my attention, especially this, close matchup. They should have won the game. Maybe there was some coaching calls down the line that were interesting, but I think Michigan can make a splash in come March Madness. I think they can make a real big run.
I would agree, and I also think MSU is back to where they want to be. I mean, they're not obviously top team in the country still, but I mean, at the same time, it's good to see Michigan and Michigan State basketball getting back to where they used to be.
Now, as Michigan State's had the same coach through our lifetime, Tom Izzo. Now, I would want to talk to you about that since you are a Michigan State junkie. He's getting up there in age, man. I saw him in that Grinch T-shirt, and I was like, dude, you're getting old. What are you doing? And he gets so mad. I love it. He gets so animated on those sidelines. Like,
that's the thing about Izzo, though, is he like we were talking a little bit about the Red Wings. The dude can control that locker room and it can make you run through a wall no matter what.
Yeah, and
he makes even players that are no names at the time. By the time they're a senior,
stars,
you know their name. And
exactly.
He's a motivator. He's
Draymond Green for one of them.
Exactly. Matt McQuaid back in the year before COVID.
Yeah.
The guys he does, his development. I mean, yes, he's up there in age, but the dude does so well at connecting with players. Like if
do you think he's going to retire anytime soon? That was my question.
I wouldn't say anytime soon. I think maybe like 5 years down the road.
Okay. So he's got some time left. I want him to win a national championship. I love Tom Izzo. I met him a few times at some Chad Tuff events. Great individual. Great guy.
His players love him. And the thing is, you never, like on alumni week, so many come back to just visit. Like, or even just normally. He commands that thing that players, I mean, he comes off maybe sometimes as a hard ass on the court.
Yeah.
But players love him. They
do.
Absolutely
They really
him.
do.
And when you talk to players around the league that played for him, they love to be around him because the thing is, in the end, he's a player's coach.
He is. He truly is.
He cares about the players. I had the luxury of going to high school with Xavier Tillman. He had a kid throughout college. The way they took care of him and his girlfriend and just how it was a family effort and how even with that, Izzo still was just like, I'm here for you as a mentor and a dad. Even
he is a Class A act, and I'm excited. I'm excited. I truly hope, despite rivalries and crosstown stuff, I truly hope that he is able to win a national championship
one more time
for the great team of Michigan State. But Evan, I mean, that kind of wraps up our show today. We had a very exciting host. That was exciting.
That was
from
awesome.
All of us over here at the one and only Super Sports Bros. We want to thank you for joining, and make sure to hit that like and follow button and comment below. I want to hear what the people think. I posted something on Instagram a few days ago on our Instagram, and no one commented. I was like, what are we doing here, folks? Come on, I want to hear what you think about the Lions and their injuries. But yes, we have a bunch of socials, and they'll be displayed below. We're on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and we're on YouTube. We got YouTube Shorts going. So look for us on any of our socials. Watch our videos on Spotify. We want to thank you for joining us for this very special episode where we hosted Chris Chelios, the one great and only. Evan, thank you for joining me today. It was a pleasure.
It was. And also, guys, we are taking a 2-week break for the holidays.
Yes.
So if you guys don't hear from us, you will hear us in 2025.
Yes, you
will.
Enjoy
your holidays,
We'll be active on social media, though.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, but you won't be in this format, but definitely.
Enjoy your holidays and have fun.
Yes, happy holidays, everyone. Enjoy.